and welcome to episode number 56 of the Classical Guitar Composers Podcast. Back with you once again after a brief hiatus. I am your host, Chris Hales, and I'm glad to be with you. I at least believe this is episode 56. Looks like 55 is the last one I have in my files. But like I said, and like many of you have said, it's been a while since I've done an episode. I'm sorry. I've been busy. Too busy to do the show? Honestly, probably not. You know, I could make time for it. So I haven't, and I apologize. I miss my show. I miss doing my show. That's why I'm sitting down here tonight. And for those of you who have been anxiously waiting, I'm surprised at some of the emails I've been getting that y'all haven't given up on me. You're just like, so when's the next episode gonna be, dude? And I appreciate that. So, let me just kind of tell you what's been going on. There's several things contributing to the fact that I haven't been doing a show. And to tell you the truth, I may have covered these last episode, or at least some of them, because I don't remember the last episode. I don't remember what the last thing I talked about was. I'm not even totally sure where I was at with things last time I did an episode. I know it was last year. Like, earlier in the year last year. I guess it's only February now, so that's not saying much. But still, probably the biggest problem is that my composition practice has dried up. And when I'm not feeling inspired to compose, I don't know, I guess I'm not in the mood to talk about it. Or it's not even that I'm not in the mood to talk about it, but I almost feel hypocritical doing the show. Like, you know, for years I've been a pretty active composer, and I wouldn't say I've had a huge output, but I've always got something in the works, you know? And that hasn't been the case for like a year. You know, little ideas have come, but the truth is I've been really bad about practicing guitar lately, unless I have some performance that I've got to do, and then I like put all the focus into this performance, and then that's kind of the focus. Composition gets set aside, as well as just regular, you know, repertoire practices. Is it repertoire or repertoire? And recently I've been picking up the guitar again, which kind of makes me, you know, more in this state of mind, I guess. I've been working on the Merlin suite of memories. I've probably talked about it on the show once or twice. I've never really worked it into my fingers. It's one I've always kind of read through, but I think it's beautiful, but I would kind of get, I don't know, bored with it isn't the right word, but it never just felt like the right time. Like I wasn't feeling it, but I always like enjoy reading through it. But recently I decided I really wanted to take it on, get it in my fingers. So I've started with the fourth movement. It's got 6 total, or 5. You know, it's like, it has the same movement twice, which is really strange. It kind of works, but I don't know of any other piece that does that. Like, the first movement and the 5th movement are identical. I'm not sure if it's brilliant or if it's lazy, but it works. And it sounds really nice. Like, the 5th movement paired with the 6th movement is just really cool. And I've been, well, actually I haven't been, but I pulled out a piece I've played several times over the years, called Farewell to Stromness by Peter Maxwell Davies. If you are unfamiliar with that piece, I believe it was a piano piece transcribed for the guitar by, I can't remember his name now, who transcribed it. But it's a beautiful transcription. It's a beautiful piece. Well done on all accounts. There's several recordings of it out there. David Russell has a nice recording of it. The LA Guitar Quartet did an arrangement of it. It's a great piece. Anyway, I've pulled that one out. I haven't played that for a few years. That's always one I enjoy. I've also just kind of dedicated a little more time to playing other types of guitar recently. I've been practicing electric guitar again. I mean, so for me, electric guitar is kind of like riding a bike. I can put it down for a really long time and pick it back up. I feel like I don't ever get any better, but I never get worse either. And I'm a pretty good guitar player. Not like great, but the instrument by far that I'm most comfortable on is an electric guitar. Far more than the classical guitar. That's the point I'm making. When I don't practice classical for a while, I kind of have to really like work speed back into my fingers, and more than speed, like clarity. It's like my hand shrinks when I don't play for a while is what it feels like. So, kind of reworking all those muscles again. I actually bought a punching bag a little while back. It's not like super heavy, but it's technically a heavy bag. It's 40 pounds. Okay, and then I bought not like boxing gloves. That's what I should have done, but instead I bought like these like padded kind of MMA type of gloves, just to do some workout routines with. Anyway, so I like smashed my hand like the first day, and instead of resting it, I kept doing some workouts after, and I ended up having to not play guitar for like 3 weeks. And that was a bummer. So now I've bought bigger like boxing gloves that are actually weighted. I didn't realize this. They're like 14 ounce, so they're almost a pound. They make 16 ounce as well, but for my size, 14 ounce is what they recommend, and it's quite a bigger workout just having those 14 ounce gloves on my hand. I don't know, man. I feel like I feel a lot older this last year. See, I got my daughter's driving. I have to wear glasses now. I finally had to go to the eye doctor because I was struggling to see the numbers on the screen at work, and I'd be in recording sessions and I'm calling out the wrong bar numbers. And my coworker was making fun of me because of how like often I couldn't read things, and I really didn't think I needed glasses. I thought, well, I just don't have like 20/20 vision. But so I went to the eye doctor, and I got like a prescription pair of glasses, and I did not realize how much I couldn't see before. I don't know how long it's been. Like, I haven't had an eye test in like, I was probably in like elementary school last time I had an eye test. So, they didn't think I needed glasses back then, but I think it's been a long time that I've probably needed them, but just kind of thought that this is just what vision looks like. So, it's kind of nice to be able to see now. Okay, so anyway, I've got glasses, and I'm doing these punching bag routines, and my shoulders are now killing me. It's like, everything hurts after I do anything. So, super out of shape. Somehow, even though, I go hiking all the time, I spend a lot of time outdoors. That's one reason that I've been doing less podcasts as well. But the truth is, the biggest reason is that I just haven't felt up to it. No, I probably just kind of made that sound like a chore, which isn't the case. I love doing this. That's why I do it. It doesn't make me money. It's just truly something I enjoy doing, and I guess that's why if I'm not like feeling it, I'm just not, I don't quite have the motivation to do it. And part of it is like, I've felt like I've run out of things to talk about. Like but maybe I don't know. Do people like listening to me talk about what's going on in my life and, what movies I've seen lately? I guess so. There's not enough music to sustain the show solely on music, so I must, to have a show, fill some time with talking. And I guess I was beginning to feel like I'm always repeating myself, saying the same things over and over again. I was worried the show was becoming boring on this side of things. So without a lot of new submissions coming in, but, I've been getting emails from folks expressing that they really miss the show. So, I appreciate that very much. Not a ton, though. So we're gonna try again. I was very much missing my show today. I was thinking about it, and pulling out these, new guitar pieces, kind of renews some enthusiasm. I was working on the same, like, two pieces forever, and they're really cool, but like, I don't put in enough. Here's what I've realized: I don't put in enough practice time currently. Now, I only say currently because this is temporary, but I do not practice to sustainably play like 10-minute long pieces. It requires, I never quite get the piece to my satisfaction, so I end up working on the same piece for way too long. So that's something. I've had to look at some smaller pieces. And like that Merlin suite, those each individual movement is pretty short. They're not monster pieces, and they're pretty playable too. There's nothing too crazy. So, although it's harder than it seems, I think that suite's kind of deceptively hard, at least some of those movements. Depends on how good you are at like the strumming stuff. I'm not great at strumming with fingers. So like classical guitar strumming, you give me a pick, then it's easy. But I recently watched a couple of flamenco players that just blew my mind. I mean, these guys were just hammering those strings, and it was so cool. So I went out to the NAMM show in Anaheim a couple of weeks ago. If you don't know what that is, it's basically like the world's biggest guitar center. It's a floor show, an expo on musical instruments and recording equipment, just kind of all things music. Even have like publishers, like Hal Leonard had a booth there. We went out there for a couple of days, and that was an incredible experience. And what was funny was, at the entrance, I got hung up because there was a classical guitar booth there was a few, like right before you even went into like the main hall. There was just some makers there. There was, I always struggle to remember his name. It'll come back to me in a second. Great guitarist, and his son is a luthier, which I did not know until I visited this booth. And so, that was interesting. I actually didn't talk to the luthier himself, but I talked to, I'm sure this guy is also a luthier who works for him or works with him or something, because he was very knowledgeable. And I asked him, because they had some neat guitars, but they all had like lacquer finishes on him, and I asked him if he ever uses French polish, if they ever do French polish. And he got so excited because no one's ever asked him about that. And he particularly does all the French polishing on their guitars. So I don't know why they didn't have any on display, but I spent a lot of time at that booth, and then I went over to Bromo Guitars, was right by them, and they have these really cool new models of their like electric classicals. So these things have like strap pins. They're a hollow body, but they're a lot more narrow than your typical guitar, and the body shape is a lot more like an electric guitar. But these are full-on classical guitars. They've got, the neck width of a classical and the nylon strings, and then they have, these ones had like, I'm not quite sure what kind of pickups they had. They were not very informative. So, and then you can't hear a thing there. It's such a noisy place. Like you demo guitars, and it's like, well, this guitar feels great in my hand. I have no idea what it sounds like. And these guys, so they have these classical guitars that are like, they look like electric guitars that you plug in. They didn't bring an amp. So I was like, they're gorgeous, but looking, but I have no idea what to make of them. And I looked up their website, and they haven't released these things yet. So I'm yet to hear a demo online even. But I'm curious. I kind of want to get me one of these things. They were all over this show. I don't know if this is a new thing or just something I've never seen, but every classical guitar maker that was at the show was featuring electric classicals. And many of them were designed, not just classical guitars with pickups, but like they were designed to be played standing. There was another maker from Spain. Man, I wish I had the names with me. I'm sorry, guys. I always come so unprepared. He had a really neat guitar that I tried out. He was much more informative. He was the builder. He had a microphone in there and then a piezo pickup under the bridge. And then he had this knob that was like a blending knob between the two. So if you put this knob all the way down to the piezo, you get this nice bright bridgy tone. You go all the way up, you get this darker mic tone, and you could blend them. And it was really cool. He did bring an amp. I was able to play it. It was still so loud in there that I couldn't really hear it, but it was a beautiful guitar. He filmed me playing, and he asked if he could film me, and I said, sure. And he does. And I didn't have like anything in my fingers at all. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so unprepared to like play guitar right now. And so I started playing the theme to this show. That's usually close to being in my fingers, at least. I wrote it, so I know it very well. And he filmed me, and what was funny is like I thought I was doing pretty good, but then like I realized I was like a fret off, and that's how noisy it was in that place. Like I couldn't even hear that I was like a fret off. So I'm doing all these things using open strings, cross string stuff, and all of my fretted notes are like the wrong notes, and I had no idea. So that was neat. I mean, I also spent a lot of time looking at electrics, checking out pedals and things like that. Stevie Wonder walked by me as he came into the pro audio section when we were over there, and a few other people like Nita Strauss, who plays for Alice Cooper. That was pretty cool. She was there. I did not meet any of the guests. Like Victor Wooten, the bass player, was there. He's very cool. Great bass player. I did not go and do any kind of like meets with anybody. I just kind of would see them about. Anyway, that was a great experience. A lot going on. So I'm very interested in this idea of this electric classical guitar for no reason other than I just think it would be a blast to have something like that. And I already have too many guitars. Like, I don't have room for any more. But I'd have to find a place. Because there's still a few guitars that I would like to acquire. And I think, well, maybe I should get rid of a few, but I don't know. I don't know who to get rid of. So it's February now. I'm not sure where things were at last time, so I apologize if I've already told this story, but Aerosmith, I've mentioned on the show, one of my favorite bands, big Aerosmith fan. I had tickets to them. Their tour was postponed, waited a long time, finally got my money back, and then they announced that they were going out again. I bought tickets again. It was even like going to be like the same day, so it was going to be the day before Thanksgiving, which the original day was the previous year. And I thought, how perfect, because Thanksgiving, like U.S. holiday, I don't work on Thanksgiving, so it's like a Friday night concert, Anyway, that was canceled again. Really really big bummer. But I did catch Iron Maiden in October, and that was fantastic. I hope to catch them on their next tour as well. Whenever they add a U.S. leg to it, we'll see if they hit Salt Lake City 3 tours in a row. That'd be very cool, but I might have to travel if I want to do it. I used to travel to concerts a lot when I was younger. Like, we'd always go out to Red Rocks. For me, that's like an 8-hour drive. Red Rocks over in Denver, Colorado. Man, I used to drive all over the place. I could go to like Phoenix, Washington, wherever. I'm not so much into concerts anymore. There's only a few bands I like to see, and what I've come to realize is that, with Aerosmith calling it quits, that all the bands I like are either done or close to being done, and I don't think I'm going to go to concerts anymore, because I just don't like anything that's out there now. You know what? I think I have already been through all this, haven't I? It was probably the last episode. forgive me if I'm repeating myself, because for me, I haven't talked about this in at least like 8 months, but I guess as a listener, you may have just listened to the previous episode and you're like, this again? Anyway, there's the things that are going on in my life currently. I've not seen any horror movies as of late that are noteworthy. My wife and I watched a bunch of Christmas horror movies around Christmas time, just trying all these like weird things that like we were just trying stuff and we didn't find any good ones. It was just like, turned on while like wrapping Christmas presents, and then I don't think I've really watched a movie since then. It's funny because I feel like I talk about movies a lot on this show, but the truth is I don't really watch a lot of movies. Not compared to like people who do like movie podcasts, right? Like that's like what they do every weekend. That's their thing. I see maybe like 6 movies a year. Well, actually, no, that's not true. It's probably a lot more than that because I'll go through these little streaks of watching a ton of horror movies, but like aside from those, I don't catch a lot of movies. So I guess it's just that it's kind of a universal thing. Something to talk about. Some of my interests might be a little too niche. Whatever. We'll stick to guitars and horror movies. And honestly, if the rest of my life consisted of guitars and horror movies and like some fishing, that'd be just right. That'd be just fine. You know what else I did last year? I had a busy October, man. I went out to New York City, which was my first time going to that place. And I thought I would really, really hate it. And I was ready to come home after a few days for sure. But I really enjoyed my time there. It was really neat. Went out there for a audio conference, the Audio Engineering Society. But also went to some Broadway shows while I'm there, seeing as how that's what I do. Is I work in the production of theater music and was blown away by some of those pit orchestras, man. It was really cool. It was a neat experience. The Broadway music isn't particularly my thing, but I've really come to a much stronger appreciation for it than I used to have. And I will say, just playing guitar for these shows, I enjoy the variety of guitar styles that you get to play. And when they're well-written guitar books, it's really fun. So that was a neat experience. I also saw the Statue of Liberty, just like your typical tourist thing, Central Park. And we did go to Ground Zero, and that was really neat. A very moving experience. Man, honestly, that was my favorite thing we did there, I think. Although it was like not exactly a happy, like fun trip, but it was really moving, really sad too. Anyway, and then yeah, so I was in New York for a week, and then got back here, went to an Iron Maiden concert like the night before the opening morning of the Deer Hunt, which is a big deal where I'm from. So I spent a week in the mountains, and that was great. That was a great month. I come back from that and do a bunch of Halloween traditions with the family. So yeah, I've had a pretty packed year. And it continues to be. When I first started the show, I had a lot of like thoughts regarding guitar related stuff, or just what I thought were just kind of like funny takes on some things, and I feel like I've not acquired any new ones, so I shared all my like fun ideas with you guys. Maybe I revealed all my cards. I've got nothing left. I've got no more tricks. I don't know. I need perhaps someone to do the show with. I've thought about seeking that out, but here's the thing. it would have to be, you'd have to have like a compatible personality. And being me, I just don't know very many other guitar players. I do not know any classical guitar composers in the area. It's not something I want to do online. I'm over it with Zoom. I don't want to ever, I don't want to do Zoom meetings ever in my life again. Unless we're doing like an interview for this show. I mean, that's an exception. Those kind of things. But, yeah, I don't. I like to deal with people in person if possible. I think it'd be fun to have a second voice on the show and someone to like joke around with. I always enjoyed having my friend and colleague Parker on here. But, you know, when he'd come on, I guess the show would always end up running really long, kind of go off the rails. And of course, other friend and colleague Jeremy has been on here a few times to talk horror movies. I think maybe we'll do that again this year. That could be fun. I'll definitely try to get some more guitar focused episodes out first. So anyway, I'm back. I plan to I'm gonna try. I really I can't promise I will, but I will promise to try to put out consistent episodes, one a month, and let's see how it goes. My question for all of you out there is, what would you like to hear? Are there things I really could use some feedback? Do you enjoy the monologues? Have the monologues run dry? Are they getting stale? Is there topics I used to cover that were more fun that I don't anymore? I'm kind of struggling to know what to say lately. When I would like, for example, in the past few months, there have been days that, you know, I've got time, I could squeeze in a podcast, and then I would think about it and go, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to talk about. And I used to sit down and I just start talking a lot of the time, maybe have an idea of where I was going to go, but sometimes I didn't. And when I would start talking, just, you know, thoughts would come and it would just be like a stream of consciousness into the microphone. Yeah, that has been harder as well. Oh, the other thing. I wish I was good enough at this that I could just record it, print it, and hit send. Unfortunately, I have to edit it because I talk too slow. So I have to edit it after, and that's the part, that's the thing that I just don't want to do. That's the hardest part. So, if you have thoughts, or would, you know, like, seriously, if you want me to talk about certain things, I'd be happy to. Maybe, well, I don't know, it depends on what you want me to talk about, but I'd be happy to read about what you want me to talk about and make a decision if I will or not. I'll say one other guitar thing, and then we'll go to some music. This is a bit random, but this is something that has come about in the last few years. So, I've played guitar my entire life. Long time. I didn't start playing classical guitar until it was like 2009, 2010, somewhere in there. Not nearly as long as I've played guitar. For years, I have been most comfortable with rest stroke. I've always been faster with rest stroke. Not rest stroke, sorry, free stroke. I've always been more comfortable with free stroke, especially for like scales. And I didn't like switching to rest stroke. Like some players will switch to a rest stroke when they do like runs, you know, it's got a lot more bite to it. It's a bigger sound. It sounds gorgeous, but you can't play like your chords and stuff like that. Rest stroke, you're not going to do arpeggios rest stroke, right? So I just kind of like to live in free stroke, and I always focused more on it. But in the last few years, I've found myself more and more leaning rest stroke for runs in pieces, and then just for scale routines. Man, like, so I alternate. I have rest stroke day and free stroke day. Free stroke day. And I just go back and forth. And I do like, here's my scale routine. I go through all the keys, but only one per day, one per practice. So if I'm on C major, I do a C major rest stroke day. I have a series of metronome speeds I do the scales at, and also rhythmic patterns, different rhythmic patterns in the scale and different finger combinations. And then my next practice will be the same scale, so C major, but I will do everything exactly the same, except I will do free stroke rather than rest stroke. Next day, A minor, rest stroke. Next day, A minor, free stroke. It used to be that I was always really happy that it was free stroke day, and now I'm like, I hate free stroke day. I want it to be rest stroke day. It's kind of like the gym, you know. Some guys like like today's leg day. I hate leg day. Like that's free stroke for me. Free stroke day is like leg day, unless you like legs. Maybe it's arm day for you. I don't know. What is your leg day? Do you like free stroke, rest stroke? Do you just not really think about it like that? Anyway, here we come to my favorite part of the show, and something I'm very pleased to do is introduce to you some pieces that one of the most prolific contributors to the show, a man who's been a great friend of the show, but also someone I consider a personal friend, just in our email correspondences, and of course you all know Martin Slater. So we're going to play these studies by Martin. Martin, I had an email from you last year saying that you thought I had never aired your 12 studies on the show, but I believe I did. Check episode 35. I believe we played these in 35. However, we're going to play them again today. So, no need to go back to episode 35 if you want to listen to these. We have them. I'm also curious, Martin, do you have recordings of your country dances that you've composed? I'd like to hear them, and maybe if you don't, maybe I ought to take a little stab at them. Of course, that's delusions of grandeur, maybe for me. Committing to recording anything right now is probably not a smart thing for me to do. So I'm not committing to anything. I'm curious, though. Do you have any recordings of that? That would be great. Until then, let's check out these 12 studies by our friend Martin Slater. And there we are. We've just heard 12 Studies by Martin Slater. Thank you, Martin. I look forward to more of these shows in the near future. I hope to get some submissions, though. I thought I actually had some stuff that I hadn't aired, but I don't think I do. I think I've aired everything that has been sent to me, so we need some new material, guys. Or I gotta start writing something. Try to pave the way for others, I guess. Pretty bad when the host of the show never writes anything. Oh yeah, and Pepe Romero was who I was trying to think of earlier, whose son is a luthier. I'd like to thank you all for listening. Hey, and remember, there's still a website called classicalguitarcomposers.com, and you can find any relevant links to episodes on there, as well as a particular link titled Sheet Music. And if you click on that one, it'll take you to a place that you can purchase music by yours truly, if that is something that interests you. Until next time, keep on plucking.